We've all been there, stuck in our own heads, constantly criticizing ourselves and holding ourselves back from reaching our full potential. But what if I told you there's a way to silence that inner critic and finally break free from self-doubt? In this video, we're going to talk about the power of mindfulness and self-compassion and how your inner critic is holding you back in your life and some practical tools you can use to get past that self-sabotage. Hey everyone, my name's Paul Wadsworth and this channel is all about helping you live with greater health, happiness and freedom. So in this video about silencing your inner critic and getting out of your own way, there's going to be some triggers that we're going to talk about, and there'll be certain ones that you can identify with that are relevant to you. And then we're going to talk about some practical solutions so that you can actually move forwards in your life. But before we do that, we need to understand, what is the inner critic? The inner critic is that voice in your head that can be negative, it can be judgmental, and it can tell you that you're not good enough in certain situations. Your inner critic can be a persistent and loud voice that really holds you back. It can tell you that you're never going to receive love, that you're never going to be good enough, and that you're never going to achieve the things that you truly want. And if this persists with a lot of energy and it goes on for long enough, then it can really cripple people and keep them stuck in life. Now, the inner critic can come out in many different forms and characteristics. It can act as that harsh parent that tells us what to do. It can act as the perfectionist or the comparison to other people, telling us that we're not good enough. The inner critic can really grab hold of our thoughts and our emotions and essentially control us in our lives. It makes us doubt ourselves and holds us back from taking action towards the things we really want. And it can lead to anxiety and depression and other kinds of things that hold us back. Now, the inner critic often has some common triggers, which we're going to go into now, and you'll be able to identify some that are relevant to you. One of the most common ones is the fear of rejection or fear of failure, where we anticipate that we're not good enough. And if we do fail, that voice in our head reminds us, see, I told you so, you're not good enough. You're not worthy of this. You're a failure. You're never going to do well. And the inner critic in that sense is always trying to keep you stuck where you are in life. Another common trigger for the inner critic is the comparison to others. And this is especially true in today's age where we've got the social media, people looking at what other people are doing in their lives, the Instagram photos, the filtered lives. Everyone seems to be happier than we are, to have more than we do. This can lead to the feelings of inadequacy, and it may leave us missing out on our own strengths and noticing them because we're so focused on other people. Another common one for many people is the perfectionism. And this is where our inner critic is always telling us that what we're doing is not quite good enough. And it doesn't matter how many times we try something or how long we delay it, in our minds, we're always thinking it's not quite ready yet. And another one that's linked closely to this is unmet expectations. So again, this is all about not being good enough. We have this false idea of what we think we should be doing or a certain result that we think we should have had, and we haven't quite met that. So it leaves us feeling inadequate again and like we're not good enough. So let me ask you this. If you could remove all of those potential fears and limitations, and the worst thing that you thought might happen in certain situations, whether it's the perfectionist or comparing yourself to others, or you think people are better than you, if you can remove all of that for your mind just for a second, what does that feel like? How freeing does it feel to you? What actions are you going to take that are different? And so maybe there are other ones that come up for you in terms of triggers. You can identify this, and it's worth spending some time on this. Maybe you can meditate on it and really get clear. One of the things that I like to do is in day-to-day life, when I'm going through my day, certain things that come up may trigger me. It doesn't happen so much anymore, but of course we all have triggers. And so when those triggers happen, I like to think about them, spend time on it later in the day or the next day or whenever, and just reflect on it and ask myself, what does that mean to me? Why did that trigger me? Is that something from my past? Is it something I can explore? Now, a lot of this work isn't always fun to do for people because it involves going internally into yourself and digging out all of the weeds and trying to create some clarity around. But that's what you want. You want to get out of your own way and let that inner critic be silenced so that you can focus and you can have a clear head in your day-to-day life. So now we're going to jump onto the solutions. And the first thing that I really want to say, which is super, super important, is that you need to make friends with your inner critic. We don't want to see it as an enemy. You can give it a name if you want to. You can have friendly competition with it. But here's the thing, your inner critic is a part of you that's trying to protect you. It has a purpose, it has an intention, and maybe it's stuff from your childhood, there's certain situations, but we're always going to have that voice that tries to protect us because it doesn't want us to get hurt. When you can really find gratitude and peace in that, it allows you to have this sense of relief and realize actually it's not your enemy, it's on your side. And you just need to learn to understand it more and accept it. And then you can find more peace and mental headspace in day-to-day life. And this is really the foundation piece. And it's really about self-awareness. So this self-awareness piece comes through spending time in meditation, through reflection on your thoughts, through journaling, from observing things that are happening, questioning them, and really being curious. Self-awareness is really like the first piece to diving deep in there and understanding yourself. Because if you're not aware of it, you're not aware of what's going on, it's really hard to make changes. And if you're not aware of these things, that's when we start to look outside of ourselves and we start to point the finger at other people and say, you did this to me. I feel this way because of your actions and your behaviors. When we can reflect inwards and take responsibility and observe them and question them and consider what's happening without pointing the finger outside, that gives us a tremendous sense of inner peace and power. It's not about blaming other people or being the victim and saying, this happened to me, so this is why I'm doing this, or you are annoying me by doing this action. It's not to say that people aren't still going to do things that trigger you and stuff, but it's about taking responsibility. It's about increasing that self-awareness. It's these experiences that are going to help you to learn more about yourself so that you can have more personal growth in your life. Another relatable thing you can do is looking at reframing. So reframing is basically if there's something that's triggering you and you seeing it with a certain lens or a certain perception, you're trying to switch it on its head and see it from a different perspective. A few years ago, I remember Bob Proctor sharing of how when he has a problem, he would sit down on a table and he would imagine his mentors or people that he would look up to or feel inspired by, and he would write that problem and put it on a piece of paper in the middle of the table. And then he would pick certain people, imagine that they were sat in different seats. And then he would go around in his mind to these different people, his mentors, and he would imagine what would their answer be? How would they try and solve that problem? And so Bob was changing his perception. He was looking from a different perspective in order to solve the problem. And so when that inner critic is loud inside and you're feeling triggered by certain things, it's saying stuff, you're focused on something, it's creating the emotions within inside of you. And so what you want to do is focus on something different. You want to challenge that belief, that story that is being said. So self-awareness is the first piece, and then you're looking at the reframing, and then you're trying to create the opposite. Look for evidence of the opposite. And so, for example, if you fail at something, rather than say, I'm not good enough because I failed at this, you can see it as an opportunity and feedback that now you know where you're able to grow. And so that when you're able to grow, you're going to evolve and become bigger and better, and you're going to achieve more in your life. So it's really a matter of perception, and you must practice self-gratitude. So you want to really be grateful for who you are, for your inner critic. Think of all of the times in your life when it's been there for you, when it's trying to protect you, it's trying to help you. And so if you can find gratitude within yourself and within the inner critic and connect it together as part of you, you can look at it as your inner child. You can do some shadow work in your journaling and go back to specific moments. Something that I've done many times, which has been really powerful, is I'll meditate, I'll visualize, I'll go back to specific moments in my childhood where I'm curious, like maybe there was something there that has triggered me in this part of my life today. And I kind of visualized and went into the place of where I was when I was a kid, the specific moments I was trying to think about, how I felt, what I was focused on, the smells, the sights, and get really emotionally involved with those specific memories to identify key things that have come out that might have influenced certain triggers in my life today. Now, some of this work is pretty deep. Maybe you want to see a therapist to do some of it, but you can definitely do a lot of this on your own with visualizing, meditating, and journaling. And the last thing I'll say on this for now is next time that inner critic is coming up, ask yourself some questions around it. Just pause for a minute, bring awareness to it, feel the emotions you're feeling, sense where it is in your body. What are the specific thoughts you're having? Start to ask questions around them. Is this true? How is my inner critic trying to serve me right now? What could be a different perspective? What would make me feel better? What can I focus on? What evidence is there to show that this inner critic is not actually right now, but you understand that it's trying to help you? And when you can do this and bring more awareness to it, over time, that should start to quieten down. Some of the other things that are really going to help you with that is obviously exercise and meditation, getting good sleep, taking care of your healthy habits. If you want to learn more about how you can create healthy habits in your life, then I recommend watching this video here. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new around here, hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you real soon.